I stood at the threshold of my bedroom, observing my son Michael and his wife Patricia whispering in the kitchen as if I were already gone. They believed I couldn't hear them, but 73 years of life had taught me that significant conversations often occur in hushed tones. In that moment, I realized that the facility they were discussing was not the lovely retirement community they had been promoting to me for the past 3 months. She's getting worse, Mike. Yesterday, she asked me 3 times what day it was. I had only asked her once because she had altered my calendar while I napped. My name is Charlotte Hayes, and I am reaching out from my home in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where the ocean breeze serves as a daily reminder that I made the right choice. However, before I share the delightful details of my new life, I must recount how I nearly lost everything. This story begins 6 months ago in my 3 bedroom house in Sacramento, California, the very home my late husband Frank and I purchased in 1982, where we raised our 2 children. I maintained it meticulously, even after Frank passed away 4 years ago. I volunteered at the library twice a week, played bridge every Thursday, and never missed a doctor's appointment. Yet, apparently, this was not sufficient for Michael and Patricia. It started subtly. Michael began visiting unexpectedly, simply checking in. Soon, Patricia joined him, her eyes scanning my countertops like a health inspector. I noticed my bills were reorganized, my medication relocated to a more convenient spot, and my mail opened before I had the chance to see it. "We're just worried about you, Mom," Michael would say, his hand resting on my shoulder as if I were fragile. I am not fragile. I am careful. There is a difference. Then came the pivotal meeting. Michael and Patricia sat me down at my kitchen table, their expressions serious and pamphlets in hand. Sunrise Gardens read the brochure, depicting silver-haired individuals engaging in checker games and watercolor painting. It resembled a movie set, too perfect, too cheerful, a place where they conceal the truth behind the scent of freshly baked cookies. "It's a beautiful community, Mom. You'd have your own apartment, activities, people your own age." "I have people my own age, and I have this house," I replied. Patricia's smile tightened. "Charlotte, we really think this is best. You're alone here. What if something happens?" Those 4 words that adult children wield to strip their parents of independence, veiled as concern but, in essence, signaling control. I told them I would consider it, which was my first mistake, failing to decline outright. That night, I struggled to sleep. I sat in Frank's old recliner, the one I couldn't bear to part with, and cried, not out of fear of aging, but because my own son was treating me as a problem to be solved rather than a person deserving of respect. The following morning, I did something I hadn't done in months. I accessed my bank account. I really examined it, not merely glancing at the balance. Frank had been meticulous with finances and had educated me well before his illness took him. What I discovered sent a chill through me. $3,000 had vanished, transferred to an unfamiliar account. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the statements. It had been occurring for 4 months. Small amounts initially, $200 here, $300 there, escalating to larger sums, totaling $8,000, all moved without my consent. I contacted the bank immediately. The representative, a young woman named Jennifer, reviewed my account. "Mrs. Hayes, these transfers were authorized through your online banking. The account they were sent to is listed as Michael Hayes, your son, my own son." "I did not authorize any transfers," I said, my voice barely steady. Jennifer's tone softened. "According to our records, your son was added as a joint account holder 6 months ago. He has full access to make transactions." I could not recall signing anything, but there had been that day when Michael presented paperwork from the insurance company. Just sign here and here. I had been cooking dinner. I trusted him. "Can you remove him from the account?" I asked. "Of course. I can flag this for our fraud department if you'd like." "No," I interrupted. "I do not want police involved. Not yet. Just remove him today." After hanging up, I sat at my kitchen table for an hour, staring blankly. This was not merely about money. It was about betrayal, the kind that makes you question every hug, every "I love you, Mom," and every concerned phone call. I needed proof. I needed to understand the situation fully. Over the next week, I transformed into a detective in my own life. I uncovered documents I was supposedly responsible for signing, forms granting Michael power of attorney, healthcare proxy papers, and even a preliminary contract with Sunrise Gardens. My signature appeared on all of them, yet I had no recollection of signing any. They had ensnared me during busy moments, distracted moments, trusting moments. In my office drawer, buried beneath old tax returns, I found a folder labeled Mom's Care Plan. Inside were printouts about memory care units, nursing homes, and a letter from Patricia to Michael that clarified everything. Once we get her into Sunrise Gardens, we can sell the house. The market's good right now. Even after the facility costs, we're looking at a nice profit. And honestly, Mike, she's only going to get worse. Better to do this now while we can still say it's her choice. My choice. They intended to take my house, my independence, my life, all while disguising it as my decision. I photographed everything with my phone, my hands steadier now, not out of sadness, but out of anger, an emotion I was learning could be forged into something constructive. That evening, I called my friend Doris. We had known each other for 42 years, ever since our children were in kindergarten together. She had faced her own battle with her daughter, attempting to force her into assisted living. Doris had fought back and won. "Charlotte, you need a lawyer," she urged. "Not tomorrow, today." "I cannot afford Bernard Morrison. He specializes in elder law. Tell him I sent you. He will see you." Bernard Morrison's office was located in a strip mall between a nail salon and a tax preparation service, which made me trust him more than if he were in a fancy high-rise. He was around 60, with kind eyes and a very unkind way of describing my situation. "Mrs. Hayes, what you are describing is financial exploitation of an elderly person. It's a crime. Your son could face serious charges." "I do not want him arrested," I quickly replied. "He is my son." Bernard leaned back in his chair, studying me. "I understand, but you need to recognize something too. This rarely stops on its own. Right now, it's $8,000 and a power of attorney you do not recall signing. Next month, it could be your house being sold. The month after that, you could find yourself in a facility you did not choose, with no money and no way out." His words struck me like a physical blow because I knew he was right. "What are my options?" I asked. He outlined them carefully. Revoke the power of attorney, file for an injunction to prevent any sale of my property, report the financial exploitation to Adult Protective Services, and possibly press charges. "There is another option," he added. "You could leave. Sell the house yourself on your terms. Move somewhere they cannot control you. Reclaim your life before they take it from you." I thought of my house, Frank's house, the memories in every room. But Frank was gone, and memories could not be stolen, only the places that held them. If I did that, how would I manage? I mean, they would try to stop me. Bernard smiled for the first time. "Mrs. Hayes, you are a competent adult. You can sell your property, move wherever you choose, and spend your money however you please. The key is to do it before they can legally interfere." I left his office with a list of tasks. Obtain a complete medical evaluation proving my mental competency, get the house appraised, change all my passwords, and secure my remaining accounts. Most importantly, I was to keep everything from Michael and Patricia under wraps. That last part proved more challenging than anticipated. Michael called twice daily. Patricia dropped by with groceries I did not need. They were circling closer, applying more pressure regarding Sunrise Gardens. "They have an opening in June, Mom. We should really put down a deposit to hold it." June was 2 months away. "I am still considering it," I replied, the lie tasting bitter. "Well, do not take too long. Good spots fill up fast." After their departure, I made a phone call I had been postponing to Dr. Rachel Chen, my physician of 12 years. I needed her to evaluate me officially and document that I was of sound mind, as I was about to undertake actions that would make Michael and Patricia absolutely certain I had lost my sanity. Dr. Chen's evaluation lasted 2 hours, memory tests, cognitive assessments, and a physical examination. She was thorough, and when she finished, she regarded me with concern. "Charlotte, your cognitive function is completely normal. Better than normal for your age, actually. Why did you need this evaluation? Has someone suggested you are not competent?" I disclosed everything: the money, the documents, the facility they were plotting for me. Her expression darkened. "I encounter this more frequently than you would think," she said quietly, Adult children who convince themselves they are helping when they are actually helping themselves. She printed out the evaluation results and signed them. You are as sharp as anyone I know. Do not let them tell you otherwise. Armed with that documentation, I met with a realtor recommended by Doris. Susan Park was efficient and wasted no time with small talk. Your house will sell quickly in this market. I can have it listed by next week if you wish. I need it done discreetly, I replied. My son must not know. Susan did not even blink. I have handled situations like this. We will conduct private showings and limit the online presence. But Charlotte, once it goes under contract, it becomes public record. You will have maybe a week before he finds out. That is all I need. That weekend, while Michael and Patricia believed I was at a church retreat, Susan showed the house to 7 potential buyers. By Monday, I had received 3 offers, accepting the highest one, $20,000 over asking price, cash buyer, 30-day close. I had 1 month to plan my escape. However, I had not disclosed to Bernard, Susan, or even Doris that I had additional funds they were unaware of. Money Frank had left me in an account at a different bank, one he had established years ago. He called it our adventure fund. Money we had saved for travel we had always planned but never accomplished due to his illness, $147,000. I had forgotten about it after Frank's passing, lost in grief and the overwhelming task of settling his estate. But as I began to investigate my finances, there it was, untouched and unknown to Michael. My ticket to freedom. I opened my laptop and did something I had never done before. I booked a cruise. Not just any cruise, but a world cruise. 117 days departing from Fort Lauderdale in 60 days, circumnavigating the globe, covering 35 countries and 60 ports of call. The cost made me gasp. $78,000 for a balcony cabin. I clicked confirm payment. Then I booked a one-way flight to Fort Lauderdale and a month-long Airbnb rental while I awaited the cruise departure, another $8,000. I was hemorrhaging money, and it felt absolutely glorious. My phone rang. Michael, hey Mom, Patricia and I want to take you to dinner tomorrow. We need to discuss Sunrise Gardens. They need an answer by the end of the week. That sounds lovely, sweetheart, I said, my cursor hovering over a tour description for Santorini. Tomorrow works perfectly, as I intend to tell them exactly what they want to hear, and then I will disappear. The restaurant Michael selected was upscale, the kind of establishment he never took me to unless he had ulterior motives. Patricia was already there when I arrived, adorned in a new designer dress, likely purchased with my money. They ordered wine. I opted for iced tea, needing to remain sharp. Mom, we are so glad you agreed to dinner, Michael began, using his gentle voice, the one that made me feel like a child. We understand this transition is challenging, but we genuinely believe Sunrise Gardens is the right choice. I smiled, set down my menu, and looked him directly in the eye. You are absolutely right. Patricia's fork paused midair. Michael blinked. I have been thinking about it, and you are both correct. The house is too much for me. I should be somewhere with people around, with activities and support. Every word was true, just not in the manner they presumed. I want to proceed with Sunrise Gardens. The relief on their faces was almost comical. Patricia reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Oh, Charlotte, I am so proud of you. This is the right decision. You will love it there. When can we get started? I inquired. Michael immediately pulled out his phone. I will call them tomorrow, get the paperwork initiated. They mentioned they could have you moved in within 3 weeks. Perfect, I replied. That provides me time to pack and sort through my belongings. I will need to go through Frank's things, donating what I do not require. We can assist with that, Patricia offered quickly. Too quickly. No, I need to handle this myself. It is important to me to say goodbye to the house properly. They exchanged a glance but nodded. Of course, Mom, whatever you need. We concluded dinner discussing Sunrise Gardens, the activities they offered, and the dining options. I played my role flawlessly, interested, resigned, and accepting. When Michael settled the bill with a credit card I suspected contained my stolen money, I did not flinch. In the parking lot, Michael enveloped me in a tight hug. I am truly proud of you, Mom. I know Dad would be too. The mention of Frank, using him to justify this betrayal, nearly broke me, but I held my composure. Thank you, sweetheart, for caring about me. I drove home in the dark, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly they ached. The house appeared different as I pulled into the driveway, not as a prison I was escaping, but as a shell I was leaving behind. The true home, filled with Frank's laughter and my children's childhood chaos, was already gone. This structure was merely a building. Inside, I sat at my computer and sent 3 emails. First to Susan, the realtor, proceed with the sale. Close date confirmed for May 15th. Second to Bernard, the lawyer, please prepare revocation of power of attorney documents. I will sign them on May 10th. Third to the cruise line, please confirm my embarkation date of June 18th. I will be there. Then I began packing, not for Sunrise Gardens, but for the remainder of my life. The subsequent 3 weeks were a performance worthy of an Oscar. I played the role of a confused, compliant, elderly woman preparing to transition into assisted living. I allowed Patricia to assist me in sorting through my belongings, observing her mentally cataloging what she presumed would be hers. I listened to Michael discuss selling the house. Eventually, while I sat on a signed contract that would close in 10 days, I donated clothes to Goodwill, items I would not need in tropical climates. I sold furniture to a consignment shop, informing Michael and Patricia that I was downsizing for the apartment at Sunrise. In truth, I was liquidating assets and converting them into cash I could control. The most challenging aspect was witnessing them feign concern. Patricia brought over color swatches for my new apartment, suggesting a soothing sage green for the walls. I smiled and nodded, envisioning the azure waters of the Greek islands I would be seeing in 4 months. Michael visited with legal documents, more papers regarding the facility, my care, and their access to my accounts, just in case. I signed nothing. Let me review them first, honey. I want to ensure I understand. Mom, we have covered this, he insisted. These are standard. I know. I simply wish to feel informed in my decisions. It makes me feel more in control. He could not argue with that without revealing his true intentions. So he departed, leaving the papers behind, but he never returned. May 10th arrived. At Bernard's office at 9 a.m., I signed the revocation of power of attorney. Every document granting Michael control was now legally void. They are going to be very angry, Bernard warned. I am aware they may challenge this, claiming you are incompetent. I handed him Dr. Chen's evaluation. Let them try. May 15th, the house closing. Susan called me at 3 p.m. Charlotte, it's done. The money will be in your account tomorrow. Where should I forward your mail? I provided her with the address of a mail forwarding service in Fort Lauderdale. Every trace of my new life was being routed away from Sacramento. May 16th was moving day, but not to Sunrise Gardens. The moving company I had hired arrived at 6 a.m. They packed the few belongings I intended to keep: photo albums, Frank's watch, my grandmother's jewelry, and some clothing, into boxes labeled for a storage unit in Florida. By noon, the house was empty, except for the furniture that came with the sale. I walked through each room one last time: the kitchen where I had taught both kids to make spaghetti, the living room where we had opened Christmas presents for 30 years, the bedroom where Frank had died in my arms. Thank you, I whispered to the empty walls. Then, I locked the door and left the key under the mat for the new owners. I was at the airport when my phone began ringing. Michael, Patricia, Michael again. Text messages flooded in. Mom, where are you? The movers just arrived at Sunrise Gardens. They said you're not coming. Call me now. I turned off my phone, discarded it in a trash can at the gate, and boarded my flight to Fort Lauderdale with a burner phone in my purse, the number known only to Doris and Bernard. The Airbnb I rented in Fort Lauderdale was a small efficiency apartment 3 blocks from the beach. It was nothing extravagant, but it was mine, entirely mine. That first night, I sat on the tiny balcony listening to the ocean and cried, not from sadness, but from relief so profound it hurt. No one would come to check on me, reorganize my cabinets, or steal from me while pretending it was for my own good. I had left a letter, of course. I was not cruel. I mailed it to Michael the day before I departed, ensuring he would receive it after I was gone. Dear Michael and Patricia, by the time you read this, I will be gone. Not to Sunrise Gardens or any facility. I have sold the house and moved away to live my life on my own terms. I am aware of the money you took. I know about the documents you had me sign without explanation. I am aware of your plan to sell my house and profit from my care. I have revoked your power of attorney. You no longer have access to any of my accounts. If you attempt to find me or interfere with my life, I will press charges for financial exploitation. I do not hate you. I am simply disappointed. There is a difference. Perhaps one day we can repair this, but that day is not today, Mom. On day 3, my new phone rang. Doris. Charlotte, he called me. He's frantic, wants to know where you are. What did you tell him? That you're safe, sound of mind, and none of his business. He threatened to call the police and report you missing. I had anticipated this. He can try. I am 73, not 13. Bernard has documentation proving my competence and that I left voluntarily. He's not handling this well. Patricia called too, crying, stating they were merely trying to help me. They were trying to help themselves, I replied flatly. Over the following month, the calls and messages directed to Doris persisted. Angry, then pleading, then angry again. Michael hired a private investigator who achieved nothing because I had covered my tracks. Patricia attempted to access my bank accounts and was locked out, triggering fraud alerts I had established. They filed a missing person report, and the police conducted a welfare check. Bernard had prepared me for this. An officer called my burner phone. I confirmed that I was well and had left voluntarily, and that concluded the matter. Are you certain about the cruise? Doris inquired during one of our calls. That is a significant sum, Charlotte. It is my money, and Frank would have wanted me to use it. We always discuss seeing the world together, but I am doing it a little later than planned. In truth, some nights I would examine the cruise itinerary and panic. 117 days alone on a ship. What if I became ill? What if I detested it? What if I had made a terrible mistake? Yet, I would recall Patricia's expression as she discussed the profit from selling my house. I would remember Michael's hand on my shoulder, treating me like a burden, and I would recognize that I had made the right decision. If you are still watching, would you do me a favor? Please hit that subscribe button. I wish to know my story is resonating with people who understand. June 18th dawned clear and bright. I stood at Port Everglades watching my ship, the Ocean Voyager, loom like a floating city, 17 decks, 2,000 passengers, and 117 days ahead of me. I was terrified. At the check-in desk, a young woman in a crisp uniform smiled at me. Welcome aboard, Mrs. Hayes, traveling solo? Yes, first cruise. Oh, how exciting. You are going to have the most amazing time. Your cabin is ready, a balcony on deck 7. Let me arrange someone to assist with your luggage. My cabin was small but perfect. A real bed, a desk, a balcony with 2 chairs, and a view of the ocean. I unpacked slowly, hanging up the new clothes I had purchased, sundresses and comfortable shoes. Nothing like the practical, mundane outfits I had worn in Sacramento. That first night at dinner, I was seated at a table for 8. Solo travelers, the maitre d' explained, were grouped together for those seeking company. Charlotte Hayes, I introduced myself. Helen Morrison, Boston, retired teacher. Robert Chen, San Francisco, widower for 2 years. Marie Dubois, Montreal. This is my third world cruise. We were all over 65, all traveling alone, and each had stories to share over wine and Chilean sea bass. Those stories began to unfold. Helen had left her daughter's house after being treated like a live-in babysitter. Robert's son had wished to place him in memory care after he forgot one appointment. Marie's family had expected her to finance their lives indefinitely. I sold my house and bought an RV, Helen shared. I traveled around the country for a year. My daughter did not speak to me for 6 months. And now? I asked. Helen smiled. Now she calls every week and actually listens when I talk. Funny how respect returns when they can no longer control you. Robert raised his glass. To children who need to learn, we are people, not projects. We toasted to that. The first week at sea was an adjustment. Set meal times, scheduled activities, announcements over loudspeakers, but it was a routine I had chosen. Every morning I would sit on my balcony with coffee and watch the sunrise over the ocean, reflecting, this is mine, this time, this peace, this freedom, all mine. We crossed the Atlantic to Portugal, where I strolled the streets of Lisbon with Helen, savoring custard tarts and not worrying about what time I needed to be anywhere. In Barcelona, Robert and I toured Gaudi's Sagrada Familia, and I wept at its beauty, not from sadness, but from gratitude that I had lived long enough to witness it. In Rome, I stood in the Sistine Chapel, craning my neck to admire Michelangelo's ceiling, and thought of Michael and Patricia in Sacramento, likely still angry and convinced I was in the wrong. Perhaps I was. Perhaps good children do not abandon their parents, but perhaps good parents do not steal from their children either. In Greece, something shifted. We docked at Santorini, that postcard perfect island with white buildings and blue domes perched on cliffs above the Aegean Sea. I took the cable car up from the port with Marie. "Charlotte, you've been quiet lately. Everything okay?" I regarded Marie, this woman I had known for 6 weeks, yet she felt like an old friend. I keep waiting to regret this, the money, the cruise, leaving my son behind, but I do not. Does that make me a terrible mother? Marie halted, turning to face me, the brilliant blue ocean behind her. "Let me tell you something. I was married for 42 years to a man who claimed every decision I made was wrong. After he passed, my children echoed the same sentiments. They said I was too old to travel alone, too old to spend their inheritance, too old to make my own choices. You know what I finally realized? What? They did not want a mother. They wanted a convenient, grandmother-shaped ATM who would babysit for free and leave them money when she died. You are not a terrible mother, Charlotte. You are finally being a good one to yourself." That evening, I sat at a taverna overlooking the caldera, sipping wine and enjoying moussaka while the sun set in impossible shades of pink and gold. A musician played the bouzouki, couples danced, and I felt something I had not experienced in years: joy. Pure, uncomplicated joy. My phone, a new one that could make international calls, buzzed with an email from Bernard. "Charlotte, Michael has hired an attorney. They are threatening to sue for the return of the stolen money from the house sale. I need you to call me." I stared at that email for a long while. Then I deleted it and ordered another glass of wine. The next day, I called Bernard from the ship. "They claim you were incompetent when you sold the house." He explained that they were asserting I was coerced or confused. I possessed Dr. Chen's evaluation, dated 2 weeks prior to the sale. I know, and they know that too, which is why this is mere posturing. But Charlotte, they could make this expensive. Legal fees, depositions, court appearances. You may need to return to California. I observed the Mediterranean slide past my balcony, endless, blue, and free. How much would it cost to make them go away? Realistically, if you offered them $50,000, they would likely accept it. It is about the money, not principles. 50,000, almost a year of cruise expenses, but also my peace of mind. Counteroffer, I proposed. Offer $25,000 as a final offer. If they refuse, I will see them in court and bring documentation of every dollar Michael stole from my account. I will press charges for financial exploitation and ensure everyone in their social circle is aware of what they did. Bernard remained silent for a moment. "You have changed, Charlotte." "No," I replied. "I have merely stopped pretending to be someone I am not." 3 days later, while we were docked in Croatia, Bernard called back. They accepted the deal, $25,000, and they will sign a release agreeing to no further legal action. They also agreed to no contact unless you initiate it. "Send me the papers." I signed them in the ship's business center, scanned them back, and transferred the funds. Then I headed to the pool deck, ordered a Mai Tai, and watched us sail away from Dubrovnik. The cruise continued through the Suez Canal, down the Red Sea, and across the Indian Ocean to India, Thailand, and Vietnam. Each port was a revelation. In Mumbai, I indulged in street food that ignited my taste buds and uplifted my spirit. In Bangkok, I experienced a massage that nearly lulled me to sleep. In Singapore, I marveled at the gardens, the efficiency, and the stunning modernity of it all. Helen, Robert, Marie, and I became inseparable, referring to ourselves as the Escape Committee. We exchanged notes on our families, the angry calls that had diminished, the grudging acceptances, and the gradual rebuilding of relationships on new terms. Helen's daughter had apologized and planned to visit her upon her return. Robert's son had finally accepted that his father was healthy, happy, and entirely capable. Marie's family still did not speak to her, but she had made peace with that. Some individuals cannot handle it when you cease being useful and begin being happy, she remarked. As we traversed the Pacific toward Hawaii, and then through the Panama Canal back to Fort Lauderdale, I recognized that I had transformed. My skin was sun-kissed, my body stronger from all the walking, and my smile came more easily. More importantly, I had stopped apologizing for occupying space in the world. On the final night of the cruise, our table of 8 gathered for a farewell dinner. Over the months, we had added 4 others: another widow, a retired nurse, a former accountant, and a woman who had dedicated her life to caring for her disabled sister and was now, at 71, traveling for the first time. "What's next for you?" Robert asked me. I had been contemplating that. "I plan to remain in Fort Lauderdale. I have already placed a deposit on a condo, small, but it's mine, near the beach." "And your son?" "I sent him an email last week informing him of my location, that I am safe, and that I hope we can rebuild our relationship someday on equal terms." "Did he respond?" "Not yet. Perhaps he won't. But I meant what I said. I hope we can mend things, just not by me relinquishing everything I fought for." We disembarked in Fort Lauderdale on a bright October morning. I had left in June as Charlotte Hayes, frightened and angry. I returned as Charlotte Hayes, free and whole. My condo overlooked the ocean. I furnished it simply, no clutter, no memories of the past, just space for the present. I joined a book club, began taking watercolor classes, and volunteered at a women's shelter for domestic abuse survivors. One Tuesday in November, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Michael standing there, looking older and somehow uncertain. "Hi, Mom." "Hello, Michael." "Can we talk?" I regarded my son, this man I had raised, who had hurt me, who had attempted to control me, and who was now standing on my doorstep asking for a chance. "Yes," I replied, "we can talk." Here is what 117 days at sea had taught me. Holding on to anger is merely another form of allowing someone to control you. Forgiveness does not equate to forgetting. It does not mean reverting to how things were. It signifies choosing peace over punishment. We settled on my lanai, what they call balconies here in Florida, drinking iced tea and watching the ocean. Gradually, we began to rebuild, not as mother and child, but as 2 adults who had both made mistakes and were striving to improve. Michael apologized, truly apologized, not in a superficial manner. He had commenced therapy, he explained, recognizing that his fear of losing me had compelled him to try to control me, and that his financial stress had led him to rationalize his actions. "I have repaid every penny," he stated, "with interest. I deposited it into your account last week and it ate $400. "Thank you," I replied. We conversed for 3 hours that first day. He returned the following week, and then again the week after. Patricia visited once, stiff and formal, but she came. We may not be close, and perhaps we never will be, but we are honest now, and that is preferable to the illusion of closeness founded on control. Sometimes people ask me if I regret the cruise, if I regret spending that money. I tell them this: I regret the years I spent believing I had to be small to make others comfortable. I regret thinking that being a good mother meant sacrificing everything, including my dignity. I regret allowing fear to dictate my decisions. But the cruise, the $78,000 I invested in circumnavigating the globe while my son believed I was destined to languish in a facility, was the best money I ever spent. It was not solely about the destinations or the cuisine or even the friendships I formed. It was about proving to myself that at 73 years old, I was still the author of my own narrative, capable of writing a new chapter that did not involve betrayal, control, or playing small. Now, at 74, I am planning another trip, a river cruise through Europe this time, just 8 weeks long. Helen is accompanying me, and we are going in spring when the tulips bloom in Amsterdam. Michael is aware of my plans. He inquired whether the funds would be better saved for emergencies. I told him I had experienced enough emergencies to recognize that the greatest one is reaching the end of your life with regrets and money still in the bank. My life is not perfect. I still have difficult days. I miss Frank every single day. Some mornings, I wake up and ponder what I am doing in Florida, so far from everything familiar. Yet, when I walk down to the beach, call Helen to plan our next adventure, or sit on my lanai watching dolphins play in the surf, I remember, this is what freedom feels like. This is what it means to choose yourself. And if that renders me selfish, if it labels me a bad mother, if it makes me ungrateful or difficult, or any of the other terms used to describe women who refuse to fade away quietly, well, I can accept that. I lived 73 years catering to everyone else's needs. These remaining years, however many I have left, are mine. Please subscribe to my channel. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. With love and respect.